Hi, my name is Jackson Heckenberg. I'm a grade 12 student at the Country Day School in King City, Ontario. CDS has been given the unique opportunity to take part in the 75 Peacekeeping Anthology. Over the past couple of years, I have been on a mission to interview as many living Second World War veterans as I can before they are all gone. Recently, last month, I was given the opportunity to interview Warrant Officer Ryan Mitchell about his experiences as a United Nations peacekeeper in Bosnia and abroad. Here are the highlights from our conversation.
Yeah, sure. So thanks, Jackson, and thanks Country Day School and the Legion for doing this. So yes, I was a warrant officer, now retired. I served for 18 and a half years, but prior to that, as we were talking earlier, I went for the 50th anniversary of D-Day with my grandfather, who was a World War II decorated veteran. He had like a rack of medals, and so did his uncle and all that. So when I went there, I was long-haired, even longer hair than you. I was 16, and I was like, this is pretty cool. I'm gonna try it out for a summer or a year, and then go on to university as we spoke about. And then I stayed in for 18 and a half years until I was medically released.
Can you discuss any specific training or preparation you received before being deployed as a peacekeeper?
Yeah, so what's interesting is in Canada, we're a very small but strong army, and military, Air Force, and Navy. So we are multitasked, multi-purpose. So even we call it something that's called a strategic corporal. So all of our actual training is to do many things. Where in some countries, especially the US, they have one job, one role. So our training's for everything. So we did radios, maps, compasses, prior to GPS. GPS was in later on. But even we have very high-end encrypted radios, or for ours with surveillance, high-end technical surveillance that could see 20 kilometers. But then we also have to do basic soldiering, so weapons, tactics, maneuvers. So we did everything. And actually, prior to our deployment, I was with the 12e RBC, so the 12th Royal Armored Canadian Regiment, but Régiment Blindé du Canada. So they are similar to, and with always attached with the Vendus, which is a very popular, the 22nd Infantry Regiment out of Quebec. So because we were a French regiment, Québécois, we were going to be deployed to Haiti. Then Afghanistan was heightened up, so we were told the next week or month, Afghanistan, originally Bosnia, then back and forth. So we were training for all of them. Haiti would have been a UN peacekeeping mission. Afghanistan at the time would have been with ISAF. And then NATO is which I did end up going to as a peacekeeper. And it was non-Article 5, so that's for all the keen people out there, means that we were able to fire if under threat without calling in like the UN. So all these different rules and regulations, which is way off the question there, but what is unique about us Canadians is that we can train for everything at different times and be deployed at a moment's notice. Always training, we are always ready, and even those who have not deployed, they're ready and always training and ready to be deployed to, like now, Latvia, Poland. We're currently in Iraq. Our special forces are all over, but we're always ready to be deployed, including for simple things like snow shoveling in Toronto, or when there's a prison break, or flooding, which I've been a part of, or ice storms, or disaster relief. So we are a very universal and very adaptive military, and we're loved all over the world, especially for our peacekeeping. But my deployments internationally, which most people want to know about, was I was deployed to on Roto 14. I was just there at the end of Roto 13 with the RCDs, so the Royal Canadian Dragoons, another armored regiment. And then I was with the 12e RBC, which is a Québécois armored regiment. So we were there with our labs, which are a four-wheeled tank kind of bit, armored personnel. And I was in the Coyote Squadron, which is the reconnaissance, which is four-wheeled. So I was part of the Quick Reaction Force team, and I was part of A Squadron and one of the troop sergeants and troop warrants eventually. even acting troop leader for a little short period of time because people were on leaves, but very rarely. And so that was my deployment there. In Bosnia, the odd time in Croatia, but that's where I did. And because of the timeline, it was more than 6 months, so it counts as 2 tours or 2 deployments. Everyone always asks about the deployments, but it's actually everything else that we do ready to be deployed at any time. So a lot of people that are back and doing all the support and training is just as important, especially with such a small military that we have that's very powerful. So a lot of people have that. Like, where were you deployed? I wasn't deployed. Well, that doesn't matter. It's you signed up on the line, you signed up to give up your life at any time, and you could be deployed at a moment's notice. So that's where our hat goes off to any men and women in uniform that do that. People don't know the sacrifice that not even the soldiers do, but the families and the kids. And that's where I now do it, and thanks to this video, we give back to those who serve. I can't serve anymore as medically released, and we'll get into that later on. Yeah, the kids don't sign up for this, and the spouses. We did. So we have to give them honor, respect, and treat them with that, because you've got both parents here, brothers and sisters. When one of them's gone for an undetermined amount of time in a risk zone and everything else, it's chaos for the family. And we need to take care of the families. But it was a neat experience because it shows how the Canadian military can get thrown into other regiments, other times, other rules of engagement. And within a week, we were up to snuff, and we were ready to be deployed that week wherever needed. Not many people can do that. And that's not just me, it was our whole contingent. But guess what we had to do all the time? Wait. So guess what we were doing? Watching movies, eating, and working out, but on duty the whole time. So we were always in gear, always ready. So I had to keep my troops motivated. There was 8 of us that had excellent English out of the Quebec Regiment. And there's probably more, but those were the 8 that was selected with the captain. And my job was to keep them motivated, watching movies, eating, working out, and being ready at a moment's notice. So our mission was to go, it's called a stabilization force, to be there while they're rebuilding. So the former Yugoslavia, I'll get back to why you're not taught that in school. We'll talk to your teacher after, but that's what it should be. Not just always the different missions, but the peacekeeping and how proud our heritage is, why this video is, of peacekeeping, peacemaking. We're the founders of that in Canada. And we can because we're multilingual. Where I live in Markham, I'm the minority, right? So we know multiculturals, multi-languages, and we appreciate that. But our role was to go there where there was 3 warring religions, 3 warring cultures, where prior to the war, they were neighbors. So you're neighbors, but because even Christians, but not Orthodox Christians or Muslims, were fighting. So what's unique about Bosnia, which it's still going to prove whether it was a great success or not, is they have 3 levels of government. But they also have 3 religions on each level of government. So you've got a minority, even though they're so small, at each level. So it's not for politics whether or not that works or not. But there's so much infighting. So when you've got 3 different religions, 3 different groups, 3 different sectors, that's very difficult for even your mom or dad to agree on something, or even 3 people to agree on anything. So our job is to go in there as a stabilization, peacekeeping force, or peacemaking. So some of the researchers might know it's called the 3-block war, or it might be the strategic war, or strategic peacekeeping. So literally, we were there for humanitarian purposes, to provide food, water, shelter if needed. We were there to provide peacekeeping element for lack of police or trusted police. And then we were also there to make peace or possible war. So that's where it was done through the States and the Marines, where literally 3 different blocks, we had to be ready at 3 different times to do 3 different missions. So that's what we were there for. It was a great sense of purpose and need, right? And I think Canada's amazing at that, and I think we should do more. Our soldiers and military members are wanting to, then let's do it. It doesn't always have to be in war zones, but peacekeeping zones. In Africa, in the Middle East and all over the world, we can make a difference, especially our strong, amazing women can do that and show that all over the world. Being very universal, being very tolerant and accepting, that's the Canadian way, and being friendly, while showing absolute force when needed, right?
That's every question I have for you.
Thanks, man.
Thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
So I want to thank you, Jackson, and the Country Day School for doing this. I want to thank Paul Kavanagh and General Retired Mitchell, who did this, no relation. And you asked what we could do to educate. It's more people like you that took the interest to do this and how you're doing it. So I want to say thank you to you. You're an amazing role model that you should get an A+, not because of me, I was a very difficult person, but what you're doing, and that can make the difference of saying what else can other people do. So I want to thank you. I thank the Legion, I think that sponsored this and everything else. And I think the more we talk about this, and not just the individual, but as a group, that's why I love that this is a group or series of many people. We need to do that and not shame the people that do this. And that's unfortunately in our community. They're like, oh, he tried to do that for personal sides. If you look at it, there's nothing about really my name or anything else or other people's names. Why? Because it was a group and a group effort, and you too. It wasn't just you, it was the great teachers and audio and sound, and Paul Kavanagh put this together and the different funding. So thank you to all of those groups, because that's how we can make a difference to celebrate us as Canadians, which I think we need to do, and Canadian peacekeepers as well, which I think needs to be celebrated more and taught more. We'll talk to your teacher after about that. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you. And thank you all for listening and taking the time and doing that. So thank you again. Thanks, buddy.
Thank you.
Cheers.